This is Lemon's Car Spotting. You post to Instagram with the hashtag Lemon's Car Spotting. We pick the hooptiest.
They are so incredibly terrible.
And which one we want to become a real Lemons build.
It does car-like things. I've been pushing for one of those in Lemons too, and those are very affordable.
Hey everybody, it is Nick and it is Eric from the 24 Hours of Lemons. Welcome to Lemons Car Spotting.
Now, if you're wondering what Lemons Car Spotting is, once you've done Lemons or you've been a car guy, you've no doubt seen crappy cars on the street. You always notice them. It's this weird affliction. You can't shake it. We're here to give you a place for that. So when you see that cool car, that interesting car, that bad car, that car that could be a lemon, shoot a photo of it, put it on Instagram, tag it Lemons Car Spotting. It's over. Yep, there. And we will talk about them on YouTube and make fun of them and probably make fun of you, but mostly make fun of ourselves.
Yeah, and so we have a Hooptiest winner and a Lemons Build winner for each week. And what that means is we review the cars, and then we decide which one is the Hooptiest and which one we actually want to see become a real Lemons car. So I'm going to decide on one of those. Eric's going to decide on the other one. So we have to pick who decides what, and we have a proprietary system for that. Incidentally, a little peek behind the curtain, this is also how we decide Lemons Award winners at races. So here's how it works. Eric, I am going to decide for you. You are either going to pick, or you're either going to have the Hooptiest or the Lemons Build of the week. Hooptiest, Lemons Build, close your eyes, tell me when to stop.
Stop.
I think that one was Lemons Build.
Yep, I think so.
I've already
remember.
Forgotten. All right, you're doing the Lemons Build. I'm doing the Hooptiest. If that was wrong, it doesn't matter. Let's get into it. All right, so here we go. And let me just say, there's going to be some stars as we go through this. We've been doing this on our Facebook Live for several months now, and we have some regular contributors, and it's fitting that our first would be Mr. Panama Spotting, who is down there in Panama City. He's supplied a lot of stuff for us, so thanks to him and thanks to everybody else who has posted. Okay, here we go. All right, car number one appears to be some kind of a Mitsubishi, which is always good for Lemons.
Yeah, I mean, Diamond Star Motors is a slam dunk for Lemons, and Mitsubishi proprietary before DSM, way better. This is, what do they call this? God, I can't remember.
Well, it was called the Mighty Max here, was it not?
Such a great name.
You know, Nissan had the hard body, and Mitsubishi had the Mighty Max, which, you know, I think the Toyota Hilux was maybe the superior truck of the three, but easily a distant third place in terms of names. So, all right, Mighty Max, excellent. We do get questions about trucks and Lemons. Do you allow trucks and Lemons? And we have a weight limit at 4,200 pounds. So basically that means all compact trucks essentially are fine. Full-size trucks are a maybe. We generally don't like 1-ton 4x4s because those will be way over the cap. But yeah, you got a half-ton short bed, two-wheel drive. You can make that work.
That's right. We have had a long bed single cab F-150. That was pretty but excellent.
Team Laser Goat, as I recall. Yeah. All right. Moving on. Oh, boy. So, God, I'm bad with my, Judge Tom Hergert, who is a Mopar expert up there in the Pacific Northwest, would be able to tell us exactly what this thing is. But I can't say that I know. It's some kind of Dodge, perhaps a Polara.
I was gonna guess Polara. Yeah, that is a, and it appears to be street parked in L.A. Which is great.
Yeah. And another car that might be sort of in the neighborhood of that 4,200 pound weight cap, but we usually grant waivers for stuff like this. Again, we're trying to avoid the full size trucks, but the full size cars we generally like.
Yeah, there's a famous street parked. I think it's a Dodge Dart in Manhattan.
Yes, that rings a bell.
Yeah, which is kind of this ilk, same era, street parked, driven daily.
about to get run over by a backhoe, apparently.
Yeah.
All right. What do we got next? Oh man, same poster appears to be the same area. So this is Chris Florin, by the way, Opel racer in Lemons. He's one of our people. This appears to be a Corolla all-trac rally edition.
Yeah, I maybe it's my redneck roots, but I love the big tire look on the 1980s compact car.
Yeah, sure.
You see it a lot with Subarus. I don't know if I've ever seen it with the all-trac, and it kind of works.
It works. It totally works. The only thing wrong with this car is it's not a wagon.
Yeah, good point.
All right.
Now we're talking.
Bustleback Seville. Yeah. Well, we of course have had a Bustleback Seville of sorts in Lemons. Team saved the Tatas out there in the Midwest. And their Bustleback Seville is really a Camaro underneath with the Bustleback body. And the story behind that was they had this moderately cheaty Camaro, and Judge Phil, as all of us have done at one point, we've sort of said, yeah, you're going to get penalty laps in that, but if you swap on a Bustleback Seville body, then we'll go easier on you. 99 times out of 100, the team cannot follow through on that promise. But Save the Tatas Racing did, and they have since won overall at a Lemons race in a Bustleback Seville.
Yeah. The interesting thing about that, and, interesting used loosely here, but their Seville is a two-door, which was never sold, but there was a Seville coupe prototype built. So they did like the whole correct paint scheme for the prototype, which was also, I think they did a Hot Wheels of the same color, like this purplish, I don't even know what the hell you call the color. It's so butt ugly Malaysia era. It just suits the car perfectly. Yeah.
Well, and they've realized the General Motors dream of making the unproduced prototype. I'm sure that if you search Save the Tatas Lemons on Google, you will find a picture of this magnificent machine.
Indeed. I should point out, I worked at a movie theater many years ago, and one of the kids who worked there was like 16. His first car was a Bustleback Seville, which is just the most Midwestern hand-me-down thing you could ever have, pretty much.
See, that's the thing. That's why we love working with Eric. Most of the Lemons staff, Jay, myself, we're all from California, and the idea of having a Bustleback Seville as your first car when you're 16 is just a completely foreign concept.
Yeah.
So we love to hear that was happening.
Yeah.
All right. Next up. Yes. Good old Ford Exploder. Now, a good friend of mine in high school had one of these as his first car. And his was the first year of the V8, which was kind of an interesting, it was two-wheel drive only initially, and it was a 302, not the modular V8. I think that it was just Ford was trying to okay, we got to rush this to production. We don't have a transfer case that'll work. People don't care if it's not four-wheel drive. But we want to be the first sort of small SUV with a V8. So, Eddie Bauer 302 powered two-wheel drive V8 had a limited slip, which we discovered by doing burnouts. It was a hell of a car. It was kind of like a Fox Mustang that had comfy seats and room for your friends.
I hadn't seen a two-door Explorer in ages, and I saw one 2 days ago on the street.
Oh, God.
And I was like, damn, that is kind of a good-looking car.
Oh, man. When you said that, I had blocked out of my memory the fact that my other friend from high school had a two-door Explorer, and it was awful. It had a 5-speed, which was cool. It was the most unstable. I mean, take an Explorer and make it shorter. That's not going to help the whole rolling over on a freeway off-ramp phenomenon that they're known for. It was a terrible car. My friend, he said, hey, man, what do you think about a 300ZX? And he was talking about a Z32 era. I was like, yeah, do it. Make sure to get the T-tops, and then he showed up. He's like, yeah, man, I got my car. And it was a red two-door 5-speed 4x4.
It's basically the same thing.
It's like you have failed in your task, my friend. I don't know what to say.
What was the Mazda version of that? Was that the Navajo?
It was the Navajo, and I want to say that longtime friend of Lemons and Lemons racer Chris Hansel, who is famous for racing an International Scout on a Fox Mustang chassis in Lemons, he had a Mazda Navajo, unless it was a tribute. Now that I think about it, I have no idea is the answer.
When we did a Hoopty-Con at Sonoma, Radwood was there, and they let us give out an award. And there was a Mazda Navajo 2-door with a 5-speed. And I was like, that's like one of one anymore. So we gave that a trophy.
Absolutely. That's the Miata of Navajos. Man. Totally. All right. Moving on. Oh, baby. This is our chief perp himself, Mr. J. Lamb, down there in Palm Springs. I mean, Palm Springs is a Cadillac type of place, but in a close P2 is whatever this is. Is it a Bentley or a Rolls? I think it's a Bentley.
Again, having grown up in the Midwest, I had never seen a Bentley of this era ever. So that's a totally, I'm the wrong guy to answer that question.
Yeah, I think it's a Bentley. I couldn't tell you what model, but yeah, it's an 80s Bentley, which, you know, corrected for inflation. It was about $439,000 when it was new, and now it's like $2,500 and or rotting in somebody's driveway.
I should point out that John Pagel, our chief of tech, scored a Bentley of this era, you know, whatever, late 80s, early 90s for $1,200 not too long ago.
Yeah. You know, and what's amazing about that is, like, as it's so much less than the sum of its parts. Oh, yeah. Like the raw materials, like there's some good, like the leather alone, like God, like this is actually like good quality material that you could use for something. I don't know what. Plus all of the metal and wood and whatever else, and you know, you assemble all of that into a car-shaped object, and it just makes the value plummet to nothing.
Well, the engine is the 6 3/4 liter 1959 design. I'm almost certain.
Right. Yeah, which you know, everything I've heard, you know, that is not the weak point of these cars. I mean, it's this big old pushrod thing that just kind of moves the car along in a Titanic-like fashion. Right. But I think it's all the other stuff that just falls apart around it. Man. All right, next up. well, I don't know what to tell you.
It's so fitting that it is Instagram user Scrap Valley taking a picture. God.
This is so great. Now, Judge Phil has always pointed out that Chryslers have the, you know, you talk about 0 to 60, but Chryslers have the fastest and quickest 0 to junkyard time of any manufacturer. I mean, this thing is probably like a 2014, and there it is on blocks in a parking lot.
Yeah, man. that is the last of the Sebrings before they just put the 200 badge on them.
Good Lord.
I want to point out, and I just discovered this recently, or rediscovered this, you know, it's one of those pieces of trivia that you know, but the Chrysler 200 convertible was sold in Europe as a Lancia Fulvia.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Oh,
which is amazing.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So if you're going to bring a Sebring, a last generation Sebring, or a 200, which will still give you free entry for it, Sebring, make it a Lancia Fulvia, and it's just the cherry on top. Yeah.
You know, I obviously during the whole Fiat Chrysler thing, the thing that I always was amazed by was like, man, in the 21st century, the Alfa Giulietta and the Jeep Cherokee and the Dodge Dart are all the same car. I mean, that's progress. But I was not aware that the Sebring was also a Lancia Fulvia.
Could you imagine, like, driving that, you know, on the coast, like through Monte Carlo down to Monaco, and like parking it next to like a Mercedes SL convertible, and
man. That's a hell of a thing. Yeah, our another good friend of Lemon's, Armin Bengel's Sunbeam Alpine owner, he pointed out that the new conglomeration of Fiat Chrysler, which is called Stellantis, which sounds like a terrible Disney resort full of COVID in the Bahamas. They listed all of the manufacturers that are under the Stellantis umbrella. And Armand was quick to know. He's like, hey, they didn't list Sunbeam. What the hell? It's like, it's not like it's more out of business than Lancia. And it's like, yeah, that's a good point. And just to recap what Eric mentioned a second ago, we are returning to Sebring in 2021. And if you bring a Chrysler Sebring, you get free entry. So, yes, your mission is clear.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, boy. Well,
there it is.
Nation. Yes. Stance Nation, baby. This is our friend Johan, Lemons Racer, out there in the Phoenix area. Well, here's the thing about Stance Nation. And as an older gentleman speaking, let me get up on my soapbox and say I have no problem with Stance Nation. And here's why. What bothers me is there are a lot of people on the internet that say, that is so stupid. The wheel bearings will fail because of the camber. How do you drive over a speedboat? And all of those things they're trying to quantify why this car is objectively bad. When deep down it's like, hey, I don't like it. I think it looks stupid. I don't like the way it looks. And people don't have the confidence in their convictions to just say that. And so they have to come up with all these other reasons why, well, technically, where the turning radius will be affected by the offset of the wheels. Like, come on, man, just say, like, I see that car, I don't like it. And, on top of that, you're probably the guy driving the lifted Rodozer, which is equally as unsafe in many other ways. So anyway, that's my rant about Stance Nation. I'm not personally, that wouldn't be the thing that I want, the roads around here really don't call for that. But if you want to stance up your car, then do it.
I just like that the windshield banner says foreign.
Indeed it does. And the last car for this week.
Oh, baby.
Yeah.
What is that? Is that a 280?
Yeah. Wait. I always screw this up because there's the 280Z and there's the 280ZX, which are two different cars. I'm going to say this is a 280ZX.
I think you're right. The 280Z looks more like a 240Z than
like a super long 240Z. Yeah. So this is the Duke arrives. He's in Buffalo. Man, hard to imagine a car from the early 80s surviving in Buffalo, but there it is.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to keep beating on this, but again, a car I literally never saw until I started doing Lemons because they just didn't exist in small town Midwest.
Yeah. Which is, again, all the more amazing that it's existing in Buffalo.
Right. The equivalent of that where I grew up was like the two-door Grand Am GT. So I mean,
which I don't know if that's as good a vehicle, but hey, if they were on the road and this wasn't, then that's a point in favor of the Grand Am.
Yeah, man. Well,
alrighty then. We are at the end. How do we do this? Okay, so I think you were picking the Lemons build, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and this is a tough one. I mean, for one, you got the Sebring, which gets you a free entry into a race.
Yes,
but then you have to race a Sebring.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. I think what I would want to see as a judge is I would love to see somebody scrape together a $500 Bentley and bring that thing to a Lemons race. We might need a weight waiver for it. I'm sure that there is plenty of weight you could pull out of it to get it into a legal configuration. And then you have this amazing opulence and probably a Class C Bentley to dominate as Bentley's original, endurance racing roots.
That's right.
Were so
Got a competition history. So yeah, I fully support that idea. And if you're watching this, post in the comments how you would prepare this car as your Lemons build, because I think that's totally a worthy entry for a road race.
yeah, totally.
Well, I gotta say that Bentley was on my list as well for the hashtag hooptiest, but I think I'm gonna say that it was narrowly edged out by as we scroll through, Dodge Polara.
Yeah, buddy.
Which might not actually be a Dodge Polara, and Judge Tom will correct us if it's not.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is, if anybody, so a little bit of background on myself. I'm sure I'm repeating stories because I've only owned so many cars in my lifetime, but I once owned a 1964 Mercury Comet, and I always wanted a car with a V8. It was the first and only to date car that I've owned with a V8. I wanted a manual transmission because that's awesome. Bought a 64 Comet with a top loader 4-speed. And I was stunned at how bad it was. I was just like, I was coming from a BMW 2002, and it was just like, I had no idea the handling, braking, steering, build quality was all so awful. Like, why do people like old American cars? And I would drive it around, and it got more comments than my 2002 ever did. It was, oh man, that car is awesome. And so, there is this huge affinity for these things, even though they're incredibly bad. So with that, this is your hashtag hooptiest for the week. So there you go.
All right. Don't forget to tag your Lemons car spotting with hashtag Lemons car spotting. When you see it, put it on Instagram. We will talk about them, and we will be back next Thursday.
Thanks for watching. I mean, look at that baby. Can you imagine? What's amazing to me is like normal people drove those in large numbers in the 60s.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was also the incident of fatalities that coincided with that.
That's true. A lot of deaths back then.
Hella deaths.